Well, and look, I think I'm a huge. We're going to talk in a minute here about Zoho and an announcement, sort of unrelated to this, but related to this idea of democratization. And I'm a
Mhm.
huge believer in general about democratization, getting IT out of the way, pushing data and capabilities out to the end users. And I think overall, I still land that way, even when we are talking about agentic AI. But I think that there's a rush right now to say, "Hey, well, look, we're bringing AI to the masses," and missing, I think, really a strategic outlook on how we're going to address that. Now, on the flip side, there was one other announcement related to Salesforce, which I think speaks to the other side of it. So, Alation, who is a company I know you follow fairly closely, announced that they have launched a Salesforce connector specifically to focus on data trust, right?
Mhm.
And maybe you can explain what Elation does, but they're basically in the business of, correct me if I'm wrong, data governance, data lineage, this idea of how do you ensure that the data you're using is valid. And we talked about Salesforce being a data cloud, and I think this is critical. And this speaks to the bigger corporate sort of issues, what I think people have to address when it comes to AI and data. It's like, how do you actually make this stuff work and that you can trust it? And I think this is more of the approach that I think should be taken versus the sort of wild, wild west thing. So I was curious what you made of this particular announcement.
Yeah, after dogging on Salesforce for a bit, this is the area where I think does look very promising. Alation, for those of you who don't know, is a leading data catalog. They keep track of all the data sources within your organization, and then you can keep track of their names, their metadata, changes that have been made, things like that. So the fact that Salesforce is working with a vendor of this caliber in the data governance and management space is promising. I also think that Salesforce had now. I thought it was promising that Salesforce announced that they were working with Workday and basically handling the AI automation that is happening in Workday. So honestly, anytime you have an agent that is handling all the work in Salesforce and all the work in Workday, that's a really good start for enterprise applications because you've already got a lot of enterprises who are going to be using your solution as a default. They're definitely pulling out all the stops to make sure that they are successful, and they are looking at the enterprise versions of data governance and management that will be appealing to an IT audience. I think the big question for Salesforce is how do you actually manage and govern the agent creation and ongoing management process as and not get overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, so going back to the elation thing, I think what is this is going to sound weird because, of course, I don't know the exact numbers, but Salesforce has to be 100 times elation size, right? They're not
Market
equals
cap
here by
wise,
any
yeah.
stretch. Yeah, but I look at Elation, and to me, this was actually a really solid like endorsement of Salesforce, right? We've talked
Mhm.
about them being a data cloud, but they hadn't really risen to that level of, in my opinion, of being taken truly seriously as a data platform. And Elation is, when you're serious about data as an asset and looking at your data flow, you look at companies like Elation to manage that. And so the fact that this is now this integrated process and it's integrated into the data flow, I think I took as a really positive sign and a signal that you can really take this very seriously as a core data platform, not just as a shared common data platform for the Salesforce ecosystem, as an actual data platform.
Mhm.
And I thought that was actually quite, interesting in terms of the signaling of where this is going. So, I think the only big question I have is if I'm a CRM customer, a traditional Salesforce CRM customer, am I not going to get any attention anymore because that's not what the focus of the company is? I mean, that was the only like, well, that's kind of strange.
Right. And I think for the rest of the year, that actually kind of might be the case. There's going to be a big push for everybody to go agents, 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 AI, AI, AI.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how that plays out in the on the field and in the field on the ground as because sometimes what happens is all this talk, but as we've talked about, there's recent Oracle and SAP are still big giant companies because the blocking and tackling still consumes the vast amount of the resources of an enterprise IT organization. So we'll see how much of this is truly a ground shift or how much of it's just something to kind of create some market relevance.